Good afternoon. My name is Rooney Virgin. I'm one of the attorneys with OSSBA as well as your legislative advocate. Most of you know that during legislative session, which begins at the first Monday in February and ends the last Friday in May, we try to give you every Friday a legislative update through video. We are doing that again this year. Again, we will be doing this most Fridays for you. Additionally, we will be having a written legislative update for our board of directors and liaisons. I'd like to remind everyone before we get started that we are sending out a survey to gather information from each of you on who you know at the state legislature. This will greatly help us with advancing legislation that is great for public education and helping to fight bills that we don't want to get passed. You will see a survey if you are a board of director or liaison is already in your mailbox. There will be one sent out Monday to our whole membership, as well as Kelly has already posted a survey online on our website for you all to take. Last, before I get started, April 16th is our day at the Capitol. Registration will go out via snail mail Monday for all of you. There's also registration online right now available on the OSSBA website. Well, session actually did not start this week. It started last week on Monday, February 3rd. It started with Governor Mary Fallin giving her State of the State address. Within the State of the State address, she gave her proposed executive budget for FY 2015. Within the proposed budget, she did remind the legislature that there would be approximately $170 million less to appropriate for FY 2015 than in FY 2014. She did, however, suggest that common education receive an additional $50 million more than last year in appropriations. She also proposed lowering the top income tax rate again from 5.25% to 5%, which would lead to a decrease in revenue of $47.4 million in FY 2014 and up to $118 million for FY 2015. This would save the median household income about $30 a year. For the top 1% of income earners in the state of Oklahoma, it would save them approximately $2,000 a year. Moving on to legislation, session also got started with Representative T.W. Shannon, Republican from Lawton, who has served as the Speaker of the House, resigning from his post as Speaker of the House. He has announced his intent to run for U.S. Senate and believed that there was not enough time to serve as Speaker of the House and to campaign for Senate. He has not officially filed, I believe, and he is still serving in his capacity as a representative and is still at the Capitol. Representative Jeff Hickman from Fairview was chosen as the new Speaker of the House. He has already been sworn in. He has said that he will not make any major changes while he is Speaker this session. I do believe there's going to be some staffing changes, but that's about it. Now, moving on to legislation. Right now we are tracking just from the second session of the 54th legislature, a little over 480 bills. That does not include bills that are still eligible to be heard from last session. Those combined almost 800 bills that we are still trying to track for you. Of those bills, about 60 of them deal with retirement. Not all of them are dealing with teachers' retirement. Most of them are dealing with retirement and the pension systems across the board, but we are monitoring all of them just in case one of them should turn into a teacher's retirement bill. There has been one retirement-related bill that has passed through the House of Representatives by Representative Randy McDaniel, House Bill 2624. It mandates the legislature to make actuarially required contributions to all the state pension plans. Additionally, Senate Bill 2120 by Senator Rick Brinkley creates a mandatory defined contribution system for all new public employees. So I believe that is OPERS and not teachers' retirement. Again, so far there's really been no movement on the teachers' retirement system. It seems to be all related to the Oklahoma Public Employees Retirement System. But again, we will continue to monitor that for you. Funding, there's some good news on the funding front. A bill by Representative Lee Denny, House Bill 2642, has passed through the House Common Education Committee with only one dissenting vote. That bill would divert funds that would otherwise go to the General Revenue Fund to a newly created Securing Educational Excellence Fund to increase per pupil funding to districts. This fund would create over 10 years an additional $75 million for public education to go directly into the formula over 10 years. House Bill 2500 by Representative Dennis Casey extends the current moratorium on accreditation standards for an additional 2 fiscal years. There is also Senate Bill 1469 by Senator John Ford that is virtually identical to the bill by Representative Casey, which extends the moratorium for an additional 2 fiscal years. There's been lots of legislation filed on the Reading Sufficiency Act. One to note is Senate Bill 1971 by Senator Clark Jolly. Among many things that it does, the bill modifies the RSA's good cause exemption for students on an IEP. The bill deletes the requirement that those students who are on an IEP have a prior retention in order to qualify for a good cause exemption. The bill also modifies the good cause exemption for students that have completed 2 years of intensive reading remediation that continue to demonstrate reading deficiencies. Those students may count retention from pre-kindergarten towards the good cause exemption so long as that retention was for academic reasons. The bill also requires the State Department of Education to obtain annual independent evaluations of the benchmark level of performance for a score of limited knowledge on the 3rd grade reading exams. That bill has passed through the Senate Education Committee. Religion. There's lots of bills dealing with religion in schools. There's a couple that have some movement right now. House Bill 2317 by Representative Bobby Cleveland. That bill would permit public schools, students, teachers to give the traditional holiday greetings, for example, of Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah at school without repercussion. It would also allow schools to post symbols of those traditional winter religious holidays at the schoolhouse so long as the school does not appear to favor one religion over the other. House Bill 2422 by Representative John Bennett also passed through House Committee, and it would allow students to express their religious viewpoints at school and on exams, for example, without being penalized. Again, the school cannot favor one secular or religious view over another. The bill also requires the school to adopt a policy that would allow students in limited forums to express their viewpoints, for example, at graduation ceremonies and things like that. And there would have to be a criteria for selecting those students who would be speakers at such events as graduation ceremonies or, for example, before a football game, to lead the student body in prayer or other religious viewpoints or secular viewpoints, again, so long as the school is not favoring one over the other. Last, before we wrap up, I want to discuss the OSSAA. There's been about half a dozen bills filed relating to the OSSAA. As you all may have recalled, there was a lot of talk last fall about complaints about the OSSAA and the procedures. Some suggestions include making that organization subject to the Open Meetings, Open Records, Administrative Procedures Act. There's been about half a dozen bills filed that would do just that. Representative Curtis McDaniel has authored a bill that would subject the OSSAA to the Administrative Procedures Act. It did pass through House Committee yesterday. I believe these bills are well-intentioned, however. An unintended consequence could be subjecting private associations such as the Oklahoma State School Boards Association or for example, the United Suburban Schools Association, to the Open Meetings and Open Records Act if these bills were to actually pass. So that is something to keep in mind of an unintended consequence of a bill passing that would require the OSSAA to follow those same public meeting, public record rules. Thank you, and I'll talk to you again next Friday.